This episode was brought to you by Pentester Academy, the leader in online cybersecurity education. Join over 10,000 professionals from 90 countries to learn security online. Also brought to you by Hacker Arsenal, artillery for cyber warriors. Visit us on hackerarsenal.com to check out our latest attack defense gadgets. I'm Marley Oxenholm from Pentester Academy TV, and welcome to our show, Access Point, where we spotlight cybersecurity companies and give an inside look at the people and technology behind the latest advancements in the industry.
I'm joined today by Leonid Belkind, who is CTO and co-founder of the company Luminate. Thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to have you on. So now, first off, can you tell us about the founding story of Luminate? How did you guys get started, and what exactly does the company do?
Sure thing. You see, it's one of these ideas that I think were boiling in our minds for a number of years, right? I've been, prior to establishing Luminate, I worked for a large international cybersecurity vendor. And in line of my work, and I was managing quite a large organization, I worked very closely with large financial institutions, manufacturing companies, like the Fortune 200 kind. And, I've been doing this for over a decade and a half. And roughly 5 or 6 years ago, I started seeing winds of change. Corporate IT networks, they started looking differently, right? All of these modern trends, firstly, users wanted to become mobile. Then more and more of the workforce became sort of outsourced, right? The knowledge process outsourcing, the technological marketing experts, whatnot. And then finally, the data centers, right? The last monolith, the bastion, they suddenly became outsourced as well. Co-location, hosting, and then infrastructure as a service, software as a service, like all of that for the notion of traditional, what we used to call perimeter security, right? Outside world is cold and hostile. Inside network is considered to be warm and safe. So we need to build this really, really strong perimeter to separate between the two, right? But I mean, it sounds like I'm joking, but that has been paying for my family dinners for like a decade and a half.
Wow.
And it stopped being the reality. So a couple of years ago, we established the company in late 2016. Both myself and my two partners, among the three of us, we have close to 4 decades of IT security. We decided that it was time to look for something different. When we quit our previous jobs, we did not have this idea in mind, but we had very clear notion of, things are changing. There is absolutely no way that the same square peg is going to fit the new round hole. So we went on to a classical ideation phase. We interviewed over 150 chief information officers, chief information security officers, directors of infrastructure from large companies all over the world, until the point where we came with a very clear realization of what kind of properties this new paradigm for managing and securing new type of corporate networks would have. And this is the story. We did not have the product. We had a very clear idea about the market, the needs, and how we're going to solve them. And that's the point where we decided to establish the company and just go all out.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I've been dreaming about doing this since I was 18. Don't ask me how old I am right now, but still, it's been quite some time dreaming about this moment. So it's very cool. So what we do in reality, we connect corporate users, both technical engineers, designers, and completely non-technical information employees like business analysts and whatnot to their corporate applications. And we do it in a very unique way. And this way is particularly suitable for organizations that are in the situation that is called the hybrid data center environment, which means that some of the resources are still located on data centers that they own and manage, right? Imagine these rooms with huge amount of rack mount machines and air conditioning, sometimes guard patrolling them if it's a regulated industry. And alongside that, they have software deployed in Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, and they somehow need to have uniform set of tools for managing access, auditing access to all of these environments. Right? The traditional approach would dictate building a completely separate set of security solutions, what we call in the industry the security stack, in each and every one of these locations. But guess what? The IT teams are not growing in size. right? The IT budgets are not being multiplied. If at all, they're being downsized. So only now in your kingdom, instead of being something monolithic, is a set of dispersed sort of enclaves. You need something to control that. And we provide that something. We provide that something as a service, as a scalable service, something that will grow and shrink upon the needs of the organization. And that's what's so unique about Luminate. We call it the secure access clouds. That's the service we do.
Very nice. Okay, that's incredible. And now I know you kind of just touched on it briefly, but how is your solution different from other similar approaches out there right now?
Right. So again, getting back to my story, when we realized that this new problem demands a new approach, we started trying to learn from innovators in the industry how they approach it. And immediately we stumbled upon something that Google did internally in their network, a project they call Beyond Corp. Beyond Corp is a revolutionary approach to managing security in IT networks, where instead of traditional ways of providing network connectivity, routing, authentication, authorization on the networking level, Google completely abstracted all of that away and said that the only variables for making a decision whether somebody should access some sort of IT resource or not are the identity of that somebody and the security posture of the device they're using. And by this, by the way, they made a tremendous breakthrough, because suddenly it's not a question of, are you in the office right now? It doesn't matter. It's not a question of, wait a second, you need to access a system that is located, I don't know, half the world away from you. It's only a matter of who you are, what is your role in the organization, is your device sufficient to perform certain operations, and that is it. Now, for Google, that transformation lasted for many years, and they had to bring in huge buy-in for pretty much every significant manager in the organization. So we figured that most of the modern organizations would love to reap the same benefits, but would not necessarily be able to, invest not only the same, but even similar amounts of investment. So we said, hey, why don't we provide something along these lines, increase the values, and we'll discuss that hopefully in a moment, even on top of what Google did, but you get all that without the significant investments upfront. You get it as a service. You could have it running in less than 5 minutes in real production. And then you could, sort of grow as your demand grows. And that's the uniqueness, right? Absolutely no upfront capital investment, and you get tremendous benefits in 5 minutes.
That's incredible. And that's so helpful for the employees, because they always tend to work remote and people are in hotels, and you need to be able to jump on quickly sometimes and do work on a project or get to something important. So yeah, that's huge.
And imagine a huge advantage here. If somebody told me 3 years ago that I would be providing a security solution that end users would be actually liking to use, I would laugh at that person. Because usually, come on, do you like security products? Does anybody like security products?
It's hard to say yes, yeah.
I hear you. And this thing actually improves the end user experience, and they prefer accessing whatever things they need to access in their course of daily job through this thing. And that improves their productivity, makes them happier, makes them more eager to, hop on in non-traditional hours and so on. So it provides huge business benefits, way more than, just the technical security and IT infrastructure improvement.
Nice. That's awesome. So now, I'm wondering, as attackers become more sophisticated and utilize new techniques, how does your team not just keep up, but stay ahead of advancing threats?
The idea is this, right? So traditionally, the IT security has been playing sort of like a cat and mouse game, right? The attackers would advance, and then the defenders would advance, and then the attackers would think how to circumvent this new advancement in defensive technologies, and so on and so forth. What we figured is that in order to disrupt that ever-going game, we needed to change some fundamental rules of engagement here. And the fundamental rules of engagement that we addressed is the whole idea of TCP/IP networking. I know all internet today is built on TCP/IP networking, but we looked at the principle of zero trust network. And zero trust network is an option that is not very new, mind you. It's been born roughly, I'd say, a decade and a half ago, but it still hasn't been widely implemented. And we believe that is because there was no sufficiently mature implementation. But the idea there is very different. You see, normal network, every resource, everything has an IP address. any kind of an address. It could be discovered by unauthorized parties. It could be scanned for vulnerabilities. Zero trust network means that no entity is ever aware of what's around it. There is no way to sort of, enumerate. Let's look around in this room, see what kind of IT services are available there. They are closed. And that's principle number one. Now imagine if you were an attacker and you would need to attack an infrastructure that you absolutely cannot discover. There is no capability that could sort of bring you a total list of your targets. That's a game changer right there. On top of that game changer, which is, if you're not authorized, you are unable to access anything, we introduce something that is unique for Luminate. And this is sort of an introduction of a principle that says, you know what, in every engagement, think about the conversation that you and I are having right now. So we are communicating, but it's not that our communication channel suddenly allows us to, talk about everything or do any kind of operation. Because both of us, we have this context that you are asking questions about my technology and I'm trying to explain it. In computer communication, if we were two computers and we would have a network communication channel between us, this context would be lacking. In reality, each and every one of us would be leveraging this communication channel not only for legitimate stuff, but also for scanning, leveraging vulnerabilities, trying to do movements, etc. We are bringing back this parity of contextual communication by creating connectivity that is not on the network level, but is actually on the application level. So if I know that you, for instance, are a business analyst that would like to, access some reports in my BA system, then the connectivity I provide for you only allows you to perform that function. There is absolutely no way that you could leverage this connectivity for, updating the software of that system, right? And so on. And that's very unique because it sort of changes the rules of the game. So to your answer, to your question, that's how we stay ahead of the game. We try to change the fundamental rules of the game.
Awesome. Okay, got it. And now, so moving along, what does it mean to have a hybrid cloud environment and what are the unique security challenges that it creates?
Right. So for the guys that are actually responsible for managing this thing, having a hybrid environment is an incredible headache. Because, for years, the IT security industry has been built around this theoretical notion of layered security, also called defense in depth, which means that when you as a chief information security officer would be building defenses around the corporate IT network, you would be meticulously crafting layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers of protection, starting with perimeter, demilitarized zone, various segments, user identity. That is a lot of work. And for many traditional organizations, that work has been done. But now suddenly along comes your IT infrastructure, your engineering team and says, yeah, you've spent the past decade fortifying our data center, but guess what? It's not good enough anymore. So I'm going to Amazon Web Services. I'm going to Azure. I'm going to, and suddenly, right, if it was the same person all along, you would be completely broken. You would be, I invested that much in fortifying this thing, and suddenly it's not serving the purpose anymore. And that is the challenge. So what do I do now? Do I repeat all this meticulous work and rebuild it layer by layer? How much time and effort would it take me? And what if, and this is the reality, the organization is not necessarily going just to one cloud provider. All of the organizations we're talking to, and I insist on all and not most, are actually going multi-cloud. So I'm using 2, 3, 4 different cloud providers because each and every one of them offers me unique advantages. Right? Google have such great advantages in machine learning, whereas Microsoft provide me other facilities, whereas AWS are doing something.
Yep.
So what is the expectation from the security guys? And that is the challenge of hybrid security. And if you're trying to stop this progress, you're trying to tell your engineering guys, no, don't go there. Come on, that's not going to work, right? That impacts your ability to be competitive. So that's the challenge. And for that challenge, you need fundamentally, again, sort of ground changing solutions because the traditional ones are just not going to cut it.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. It's growing at such a rapid pace. So too, at some point, it's become too much, way too much for one person to be able to realistically do all that work by themselves. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, big time. And this is, by the way, where we try to follow the same industry trends that are sort of shaping the IT industry and bringing them into security. You're right. It is too much work for one person, for one team, sometimes for one organization. And the help comes in the shape of automation, right? Today, and we run here a R&D organization of 30 something people. These guys are handling data centers of the size that, 5-6 years ago, only the giants like, I don't know, Citigroup, Bank of America would be able to dream of. And today we're able to do that with a team of 30 people, thanks to automation, thanks to the fact that we really can move mountains by a single click of a button. And that happens in the infrastructure. Now, logically, right, if I now want to deploy various security layers in that exact same infrastructure, what better way to achieve that is by just extending this automation by yet another layer and integrating on top of what is called DevOps, the development operations, the security operations that are actually automatically extending your infrastructure to become a secure infrastructure. And this is indeed the paradigm that we're trying to lead in the industry. And I think our customers today are benefiting a lot from them. It gives them huge freedom to leverage cutting edge technologies, not caring about, oh my God, what if we ever had to go on a blockbuster platform? Because that just does not happen. No, seriously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. So now I know that you spoke already a little bit about zero trust architecture, but what about Beyond Corp? What does that mean?
So Beyond Corp is, again, the idea that Google brought aboard, where they said you can access any corporate resource from anywhere, just over the internet. Corporate LAN, when you are in Google offices, is meaningless. It is as secure and as trusted as I don't know, a Wi-Fi in Starbucks or in an airport lounge. It's just a facility. And the notion there is that the corporate IT role players, like risk managers, IT security architects, they need to be able to express the organizational policy in these high-level terms. So I need to be able to say, hey, this is a very sensitive resource. So let's say I only allow access to it for designated role players in the organization. And these guys, they should use highly secured devices. And they should authenticate this way and so on, right? So expressing such a policy and having distributed tools that allow you to enforce it, that's what Beyond Corp is all about, right? It took, the meaning of the name literally is taking the corp network that used to be heavy.
Oh yeah, Beyond Corporation,
Exactly. That's what it's all about. Take it to the business access level. And the reason for that is simple. Nowadays, and it's amazing, alongside that evolution of everything is very fast, everything is very sort of approachable, companies that just a couple of years ago had absolutely nothing to do with information technology, agricultural companies, traditional industry, and so on, all of these, they become heavily IT driven. Suddenly, it's not just something on a side, it's something very much at the core of your business. And for that, Beyond Corp has yet additional purpose because it actually allows you to take all of these business processes and speed them up and visualize them and manage them. Imagine the risk assessment and so on, clear from the technical terms, just talking about business role players accessing business critical information. That's amazing, actually.
That's huge. Yeah, because at the end of the day, they want to see where their dollars are being lost. Lost data equals lost money. So that's the main thing. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
And so now, what is software-defined perimeter and why does it matter?
So software-defined perimeter is actually a misleading term because it's not a perimeter, right? The traditional perimeter used to consist of network routing, network firewalls, physical appliances, sometimes maybe virtual appliances that the security guys have configured in order to indeed separate the bad and hostile environment from the good and safe environment. Now, this approach is actually saying that it doesn't matter where you as a user are located, and it doesn't matter where your IT system is located. So in the essence, for every time, every instance that some information employee would like to access some system, we create an ad hoc perimeter of one, right? What matters right now is the security between myself and the system that I'm using. And that is why it is called software-defined perimeter, right? But the perimeter thing is misleading because the moment I stop my session, I complete working with a certain system, that perimeter vanishes. It's like an ephemeral entity that never exists. And for that reason, it is software defined, because you could, sort of create them, destroy them, modify their properties, etc., in a very agile and fluid manner.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. So now I'm wondering, what types of companies do you guys normally work with? And can you give an example of how you were able to help a customer out?
Sure, happily. An ideal customer for us would be a company that is looking to make a difference in their respective business by the use of technology. That customer would be ideal for us, because for them, the benefits that we're bringing would have a very central meaning. Now, such customers can come from different verticals: financial services, media services, consumer services, healthcare and pharmaceuticals. As the biggest example, I'm currently thinking about a financial services customer of ours. It's an international company called the Next Group. They've recently undergone a merger and acquisition with a US-based company called the CME Group. So that company is, I think, world's third largest fintech transaction processing company. They service north of $1.5 trillion of transactions daily. Naturally, they provide services to the biggest financial institutions like banks, actuaries, and so on. Their main concern, right, is making sure that their services and their infrastructure is very resilient, right? That their organizational processes ensure the security of the data of their customers, etc. That company used to spend tremendous amounts of efforts in order to onboard each new customer, because they had to prove from the very beginning for each and every customer that the way they're accessing their systems, the way they're securing their data, and so on, is secure and compliant with industry's best practices. When they switched to accessing this infrastructure using our service, suddenly the costs for that were cut by, 60, 70, 80%, right? So suddenly it became much easier to explain how secure the environment is, how audited and well-arranged the access is, and so on. And to prove this thing, right? It's not only about doing things, right? It's about demonstrating that you're doing them, and they've achieved both. So for that company, it's been a tremendous impact on their business. Suddenly the cost of acquisition of new customers, their ability to expand has been increased to a tremendous extent.
That's awesome. Very nice. Okay. And so now, lastly, what is your vision for the company, and what does the future roadmap look like to you?
Sure. So our idea is to identify more and more fields where companies start relying heavily on information technologies and provide them a turnkey solution for any kind of business digital communication that they need, right? So it's not only going into our core sort of market today, where we allow corporate employees to connect to corporate IT resources and systems, right? It's also going after companies exposing things to their business line partners, exposing things to their customers, where again, security of access auditing is very critical, right? So where we see ourselves in 2, 3, 4 years is that we become a hopefully de facto standard for accessing any kind of cloud-based or hybrid environment-based IT systems. That's the vision. It's a big one, but you have to set a goal at something very challenging, and then just go there patiently, step by step.
Absolutely. And I could see you guys doing that as well, especially with at the rate of everything's going lately, 100%. And at some point, we're going to be at a point where every single company has to have their data up into the cloud. So yeah, it's going to be sooner rather than later, I think.
Already on the way there.
Absolutely. Leonid, thank you so much for sitting and speaking with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it immensely. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook so you don't miss out on any of the latest cybersecurity news. This episode is brought to you by Pentester Academy, the leader in online cybersecurity education. Join over 10,000 professionals from 90 countries to learn security online. Also brought to you by Hacker Arsenal, artillery for cyber warriors. Visit us on hackerarsenal.com to check out our latest attack defense gadgets. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.